Andrea Moffitt, the co-founder of Plum, which is a private investment platform that was designed to give people access, individuals, families, corporate executives, better access to invest in early stage companies. And our focus is investing in next generation technology and healthcare companies that are founded by gender diverse teams. So before co-founding Plum with my partner Deborah Jackson, and after a decade on Wall Street, I partnered up with a think tank, the Center for Talent Innovation, and 6 of the big wealth management firms to lead a global study on women investors. And we looked at women investors across the US, UK, 4 countries in Asia. And then I published a book called Harness the Power of the Purse, Winning Women Investors. A lot of learnings, and I would say one of the big key takeaways between women and male investors, first of all, we all want return. Women, like men, are looking for financial independence, financial security. But one of the things I talked about in the book, and we found in the research, was that women were looking for a greater basket of goods. The opportunity to invest in, with agency, for influence and impact in the world, and solving some of the world's biggest problems. And one of the things through that research that became clear to me in talking to hundreds and thousands of accredited investors and high net worth individuals across the United States and other countries was a huge interest in better access to invest in early stage companies that were trying to solve big problems and really disrupt technology and healthcare for the next generation of companies. And that's what led me to co-found Plum. Just in terms of our focus at Plum, really 3 main screens. We focus on companies that are at the Series A stage, generally, so they're typically raising between 3 and 15 million. So they're companies that are not first money in, they're not angel investments, these are companies that are a little further along. We also look for companies specifically in technology and healthcare, building disruptive new products and services. And as I said, we look for companies that have gender diverse founder teams, because I'm sure you, like many others, have heard the statistics of a very small percentage of capital going to female founders and gender diverse founder teams, to the tune of less than 14% of the $80 billion invested in venture last year. So we, particularly look for companies that are, visionary founders. They're really trying to solve big problems, and also surrounding themselves with a stellar team and have some product market fit. So number 1, I would say, it's often quoted, but you are backing the jockey, not the horse, and so very much looking for founders that are visionary and that are building out a stellar team. It is a differentiator for most successful companies to really have a stellar team from the early days. Number 2, I think companies that are truly trying to solve big problems that they're obsessed with. They're not just starting businesses, but they're starting, they see something that others don't see. Oftentimes, even the investors don't see, because they have a view of where the world is going over the next, 5 to 10 years, and they are positioning themselves to capture that opportunity. I think number 3, companies that don't get distracted by shiny objects. Stay focused. So important to find product market fit, and ramp with your target customer quite quickly, and then grow from there. Well, I would say, particularly as it pertains to meeting and speaking with investors, I think it's important to be visionary, but also to paint a relatively achievable picture in terms of projections and growth opportunity. I think sometimes you see very unrealistic projections, which we all discount, but it's good to see visionary founders that also have a path to growth and where they're headed. I think being overly aggressive in what their sales projections are or where they are currently in their capital raise is something that also can be a bit of a red flag. I would also say not boiling the ocean. Staying focused on near-term opportunities with an eye towards how you are looking to expand over time. I don't know about hardest to invest, but I would say industries that are particularly compelling. I think there is obviously a lot happening with the advancement of artificial intelligence, and particularly in deep learning. We're right now in kind of final stages of an opportunity that is looking at being at the forefront of moving from, what's historically been, search to a discovery experience and a more personalization and finding opportunities that have not yet been identified, which is an exciting space. I think there's a lot of investment opportunity in the deep learning and deep tech, which will transform, how we use technology for business as well as for, personal lives over the course of the next 5 to 10 years. Also, at Plum Alley, we do, invest in healthcare selectively. I would say we see a ton of female founders in healthcare tech and in biotech. And relatively recently invested in a, really interesting company, Mammoth Biosciences, that is using CRISPR in the diagnostic space. So I think there's a lot happening in how we're using the advancement of technology and the invention of CRISPR in the healthcare world, particularly for diagnosing diseases. Well, I think, the recipe for success, every company has their secret sauce. I do think that, I would say back to founders that really see something that others don't and are trying to solve big problems as investors. And I think particularly one of the reasons it's so exciting to invest in the asset class of venture is the opportunity that you don't necessarily have in public equity companies or other areas of investment to really be behind the next generation of companies that are solving big problems in the world. One example is a company we invested in a couple of months ago called Aclima. The founder, Davida, is an incredible visionary trying to solve climate change. And Aclima has developed a technology and both hardware and an environmental intelligence platform to really be able to analyze and create transparency on air quality at a hyper-local level through a long-term partnership they've had with Google. I know our investor base of Plum Alley members were incredibly excited about not only their traction and the technology they've built, but the massive opportunity to, for Aclima to be part of solving climate change and improving air quality around the world. I think that I would just underscore that, historically investing in venture has been a fairly closed ecosystem for very, reasonable reasons. It can be a little bit more risky. It's relatively illiquid because most of these companies are 7 to 10 years before they have an exit, like an IPO or an acquisition. But, we see it as a very exciting space to really enable particularly families, individuals, and even corporations to be plugged into and stay future literate on where technology is going and how it's changing the world, and also participate and be part of the potential wealth creation that is happening in early stage companies, particularly as many companies are staying private much longer, and most of the growth is happening while they are still private. And so at Plum Alley, one of our big objectives is opening up access for a broader range of accredited investors to be able to be participating and investing, particularly women as investors, and really have a say and influence on what are we funding and what are the technologies we're backing that can really improve the human experience in the world.